I would like you to tell us a little bit about your early years when you were already a very prolific artist as a teenager in Madagascar. I've read somewhere that you were the enfant terrible of the art and fashion world. Would you say so?
Well, let's talk a little bit about my early ages. When I was in Madagascar. Well, I can tell you the story because I think it's more interesting. So I was born in Madagascar like 44 years ago. So it was a long time ago. I was raised in a very normal family without any connection with art. The only thing is that my family, they were like very open with this idea that we are in Madagascar. Madagascar is an island, but the world is big. And the world is big enough actually to play everywhere. So it's, I really love my grandfather when he was like saying this kind of thing, because I think it's important. And I think it's more important to say that today, because we are like all trying to close borders and I don't know, we're trying to be patriotic. And I think it's important to say that we are still together and we are like living together. Well, so yes, then I was raised, you know, also in a very normal way, nothing eccentric. But, you know, when you were young and you have a dream, and I never had a dream of being an artist. I had a dream of like creating something, using my hands, manipulating many materials, manipulating, you know, something. That was my dream, but there was no definition. So this idea of a terrible kids maybe came from that. I was in a country that, from our history, we didn't have art school. So actually, you are like just like manipulating the things that you can see like every day. So of course, you know, I tried to put some metal things as clothes, or maybe I used also some fabrics, you know, as an artwork. But there was no definition. So yes, I tried many things, and there was no museum, of course, there is no galleries, so I tried to do it like, you know, as a performance, you know, in some parties or different places. So I think this idea of like the terrible kids came from that, I think.
And actually, I would like to know, what was this moment of change that you decided that you were quite successful in Antananarivo and maybe your life was quite fun, and all of a sudden you decide to have this kind of challenging time in a city where you were not known and where you would become a student after having been an artist, or at least having creating something. So what motivated this change?
Again, I'm going on this on the words of my grandparents, that we are in Madagascar, but you know, look at the world. And I think, and for me it was really important that, okay, I experiment many things in Madagascar, and Madagascar is still my country, and actually I'm still living and working in Madagascar. I'm sharing my time between France and Madagascar. But for me it was important actually to discover the world, and to discover the world by myself. So there was a real, not a problem, but like a, you know, when you are meeting people, and then some people said, well, you have to go in an art school. Some people said you have to go in a design school. Some people said you have to go in a fashion school. And I said like, well, actually fashion, I think, I don't know what is fashion, but I experiment, you know, some elements with fashion. Design, well, you know, with the art and crafts, I tried some few things. Well, but, and then, you know, architecture appears. Something that I really don't know. Like, it was many discussions, you know, like with some people that I met. And then I said, okay, I'm going on architecture because apparently it's nice. You can think about many things. You can think about architecture, you can think about the people, you can think about history, and you can build, which is an amazing action actually when you're young, like, okay, I'm going to build museums, I'm going to build, I don't know, buildings and everything. So I just went actually in the École Spéciale d'Architecture in Paris. One of the most interesting schools, I think, in France. This is really my point of view, because they are not creating architects. They are creating people with architectural statements, but they can be publisher at the end, they can be designers, they can be a doctor, they can be everything. So I like the idea of the school. So I went there and I met actually some very interesting people, like for example Odile Deck, who is who is still a friend and more than a friend. She was actually one of my teachers. She was one of my first collector. Then we collaborate on many things, and we are still having a lot of discussion about the idea of an architecture without any architecture, but more about the idea of being an architect or thinking as an architect.
You are the author of so many projects, involved in a number of collaborations in the fields of design, fashion, music, performance, graphic design as well. We could spend hours speaking about each aspect of your work, but unfortunately it's not possible. I'd like maybe you to tell me about a work which title I love. It's last year in Antananarivo, but even more than the title, what intrigued me is the starting point of this work, which is a series of photographs of a ball held in 1900 by colonials in Antananarivo. Where did you find these images, and what does it mean to you?
So this it's a long. This project was a long process, and I think I really started like maybe like 10 years ago, in my mind, and really thinking about the word Madagascar, the approach of Madagascar when you are abroad, the vision of the people also, you know, of Madagascar when they are abroad. I'm really against this idea of, you know, like the cliche, like in Madagascar. You know, it's really tiring when the people are thinking that they are only animals and beautiful beaches. I'm insisting that it's a country and some people are living there, and it's yes, and it's a real country and not just like a beautiful sea and coconuts. So all those things came on my mind, and then actually I had like many references. The first references actually was this movie from Alain Resnais, this French filmmaker who made this amazing movie, and for me it's kind of a total reference, like for everything, called Last Year in Marienbad. And I would love to go to Marienbad once. Even the movie was not. They didn't shoot actually the movie in Marienbad, but doesn't matter. I think this name is like it's kind of a dream for me. But the movie is actually it's a love story. Again, there is an idea of a duality. There is an architecture, the tension between the ornaments and the non-ornaments, the black and white, the elegance and I don't know, the elegance and the drama. Well, I think you can watch the film and I think you will understand. But all of those references arrived, and then so Madagascar, the movie, and the last point was I never put actually on my work this word called colonization. It's a real. It's not a problem, but it's interesting actually how the art scene are actually talking about the colonization. Most of the people are putting like two boxes, you know, the colonized and the colonial. On the other side, some of them are like suffering, and on the other side, you know, some of them are like the powerful people. So Madagascar I think it's more interesting. It's not a provocation because I heard, you know, this story from my grandparents again. They are like an amazing reference maybe for me, but they were always telling us that, of course, you know, we were colonized, but this colonization also brought us, you know, this idea of the civilization. So there are some bad things, but there's also some good things. So I don't want to tell bad stories. I don't want to tell actually good stories. I'm not part of the left side or the right side. It's not the point. But I just want to tell actually this story of a story that I didn't know. I was not there. And this ambiguous story that Madagascar had actually with the French colonization. There is also something very important because we had actually the British colonization before and we had the Portuguese. So it's more complex than just a kind of the French arrived and actually they killed many people. So let's stop on this idea. So after that, actually, I decided actually to go in this colonial archive in Madagascar. The place is called FTM. So I started this research and then I found those images. So on one side, you had these very dramatic images, Malagasy people in front of the colonial. On the other side, you had this very beautiful landscape, but I was not interested. And suddenly, I found those two images a ball. A ball in Madagascar in this period with those Malagasy people dressed as, actually as a civilized people, as a French. It was very interesting because, again, and we are talking about the tension, there is a colonial tension, like, you know, the Malagasy people, they were dressed as beautiful, elegant, civilized. And on the other side, there was actually no geography on those images.
And could you find out the occasion? Why was this ball taking place?
This I don't know.
And also the building in which it was?
I don't know, but I like the mystery of it. So it's there. But for me, it was really interesting that actually the fabric, the clothes, can change the attitude. So again, we are in a tension between the drama and the glamour. There is something like that. So I decided to use those images. So I cut them in 4 parts. So actually it's 8 images. And I construct a kind of a new scenario, very abstract, that sometimes you just have the head, sometimes you just have the clothes, sometimes you have actually the space, but it's another story. So if you compare the movie actually of last year in Marienbad and those series, there is something between. So it's, again, we're talking about the tension. We are talking about the duality. I think if I have to develop also the title of the idea, last year in Antananarivo, I don't know what's happening in Antananarivo. Actually, are we talking about the colonization? Are we talking about last year? Are we talking about now? And are we talking about the past? It's a little bit confused, but I'm just telling you the story of the process.
And now, a question unavoidable, your participation at the last Venice Biennale. You were representing Madagascar, your country, and what is very fascinating is that you were the first ever to represent this country in the exhibition, which is the most well-known exhibition in the world, let's say, Venice Biennale. How did you conceive the show, and what was your inspiration?
Actually, it was an amazing story because, and not only for me, I think it was an amazing story also for the country. And I'm insisting with this idea that it was the first time for Madagascar, it was the first time for me, but it was also the first time for the Venice Biennale to have Madagascar there. So it's just a game, like, it's
Yeah, I like it.
No,
it's also a privilege for
No, it's also
Venice.
a privilege for them, you know, to receive a country like that. So it was actually when I received this invitation, I discovered that when you represent a country actually in Venice, you are not just an artist. You become an ambassador. You became actually someone who's directing many things. It's just like it's beyond the idea of the artist, which I like at a certain point because I'm always trying to be beyond the idea of only an artist and with some cliche of an artist. It was, in the beginning, it was really complex because when I started a discussion with my curators and with some friends and people, they immediately said like, oh, you have to represent actually something about Madagascar, an image, references and everything. And I said like, wow, this is absolutely impossible. Since many years, I'm trying to avoid actually this idea of, okay, I'm from Prague, so I have to be dressed like a Prague person. I am from Cotonou, so I have to be dressed like a from a Benin person. For me, it doesn't make sense because again, there is no geography. We are all mixed and there is no specific typology. So I decide, and it was really radical when I said like, okay, give me all the references, I will read them and everything, but I will forget everything. And for me, the starting point of the project that was, let's forget Madagascar for a better future. So I totally forget Madagascar, I totally removed Madagascar, and I really went back on my, not on my roots, but on my spirit, that, okay, if I have to go to Venice, what will be actually the effect, what will be actually the main reflection? And the main reflection for me was the materiality, like a lot of materiality, like a lot of things, a material not coming from anywhere, but the spirit has to be Malagasy. So I end up with this huge installation made with paper, They were not made in Madagascar. They were made in Dordogne. It's in the middle of France, like nowhere. The pieces were produced in France and at the end produced in Venice. But then the spirit, like all the text, all the sound piece that I made actually on the installation was made in Madagascar with a lot of Malagasy reference. And the catalog actually is full of references, personal references from Madagascar, and also like a kind of a popular, like a general references from Madagascar. So now it's done, but it was it was an action, but it was also a real statement for me, for myself, that what is actually my posture in the art world right now, and what is my posture and my attitude, you know, in front of Madagascar.